There you go.
Got it. Thanks, Brian.
It just doesn't look big and hard.
Okay, Dana?
Yes.
Hey, there you are.
Wait, I still have Brian on the phone.
I can take a deep breath.
We good? All right, notice is hereby given of the regular meeting of the Board of Education of the Town of Westfield in the County of Union, New Jersey at 7:30 p.m. on the evening of Monday, March 19th, 2018, in the boardroom of the Administration Building, 302 Elm Street, Westfield, New Jersey. The purpose of this meeting is to transact the regular business of the board and to transact any other business to come properly before the board. This is to advise the general public and to instruct that it be recorded in the minutes that in compliance with Chapter 231 of the Public Laws of 1975, entitled the Open Public Meetings Act, the Westfield School Board on Wednesday, March 14th, 2018, caused to be posted at the office of the Board of Education located at 302 Elm Street, Westfield, New Jersey, and delivered to the Westfield Leader, the Star Ledger, the Westfield Library, Town Clerk of Westfield, Tap into Westfield, and Patch.com, a meeting notice setting forth the time, date, and location of this meeting. Dana, can we have a roll call, please?
Lynn Benner.
Here.
Mike Phelan.
Here.
Kent Diamond.
Here.
Brendan Galligan.
Here.
Robert Garrison.
Here.
Gretchen Oleg.
Here.
Peggy Oster.
Here.
Charles Ostroff.
Here.
Amy Root.
Here.
Charles, can you lead us in the flag salute, please?
I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. So we'll start the meeting with announcements, and I'll start with board members. Lynn, do you have an announcement?
Yes, I do. Congratulations to Westfield High School sophomore bass player Charlie Compton, who was selected to perform with the 2018 New Jersey Association for Jazz Education Jazz Combo. Charlie will join other talented jazz students from Central Jersey in a concert on April 22nd. Special thanks to jazz band director Trevor Sindorf.
Thank you. Michael.
Yes. Congratulations to the following student athletes from Westfield High School. Junior Erica Lawrence took the individual title for the shot put at the girls' winter track and field sectional competition, and to sophomore wrestler CJ Composto, who finished 5th in the state wrestling tournament.
Thank you. Charles.
Yes. Congratulations to Westfield High School senior Greta Frontero for being named 2018 New Jersey High School Journalist of the Year by the Garden State Scholastic Press Association. With this honor comes the 2018 Bernard Kilgore Memorial Scholarship, a $5,000 scholarship award from the New Jersey Press Foundation. Greta will join other journalists at a dinner in their honor in April.
Thank you. Brendan.
Yes. 10 Westfield High School students earned perfect scores in different subjects on the February ACT standardized tests. The 11th graders receiving the top score of 36 are Catherine Armstrong in math, science, STEM, and English, Rachel Bowman in English, Caleb Butera, English, Catherine Sarasso, reading, Nicholas Charmack, math, Fiona Gillen, English, Jared Greenspan, science, English and reading, Emma Herber, English, Jenna Miller, English, and Jennifer O'Connell, science.
Thank you. Ken, do you have any announcements?
Yes. Congratulations to Roosevelt Intermediate School 7th grader Alexandra Sakala, who recently received the President's Volunteer Service Award, which recognizes middle and high school students across the United States for outstanding volunteer service. Alexandra's volunteer efforts include proposing and forming the Kindness Club and spearheading a variety of charitable projects, including support for the Children's Specialized Hospital and Hurricane Harvey relief.
Thanks. Amy.
Yep, I've got two. The first one is Edison Intermediate School. Edison 8th grader Amy Shao for violin and 7th grader Kevin Chen for viola have been selected to perform with the New Jersey All-State Intermediate Orchestra in May, with Amy chosen as first violin. Congratulations to Amy and Kevin, and to Edison Orchestra directors Jennifer Perkle and Craig Stanton. And then from the high school, we have 15 Westfield High School juniors and sophomores were honored by the Community Food Bank of New Jersey on March 5th for collecting more than 5,000 pounds of food items for families in need. Of the 60 schools that participated in the organization's Students Change Hunger campaign last fall, Westfield High School donated the largest amount of food. Participating in the CFBNJ food drive were Marcella Evans, Madeline Cohen, Jack Chaffee, Julia Clark, Julie Danovig, William Lichholt, Madeline McDevitt, Charlotte Moore, Anna Obsgarden, Ava Paul, Julia Rickert, Samantha Stravick, Zoe Tedeschi, Daniela Villaro, and Alyssa Witzel.
I have one. 2 Westfield High School student musicians auditioned over the past weekend and were selected for the New Jersey All-State High School Orchestra. Junior Kevin Lee was named principal second violin. Freshman Kelly Egan will join the bass section. The concerts will take place in November during the New Jersey Education Association Convention in Atlantic City and at the New Jersey Performing Arts Center in Newark. Congratulations to Kevin and Kelly and to Westfield High School Orchestra Director Craig Stanton.
Thank you. Peggy.
I have 2. March is Youth Art Month, bringing creativity and community together in Westfield. Paintings, drawings, and sculptures designed by approximately 300 students from Westfield's 10 public schools are displayed by 39 downtown merchants, as well as the Westfield Memorial Library and RMC Studios in Garwood. There is still time to enjoy these colorful artistic displays. A special thanks to all Westfield merchants who graciously volunteered their window space for student artwork. And it's really amazing if you go downtown and see all that the kids do on all different levels. So I do encourage everybody to do that. And my second is from Jefferson School. Jefferson School marked February as Kindness Month, as students and their families used the written word to express their gratitude to the school's teachers, paraprofessionals, administrators, and other staff members. More than 300 gratitude notes flooded the school last month with sentiments that included thanking the school's custodians for their hard work, the teachers for inspiring a love of books, and other staff members for making Jefferson a better place. Special thanks to the parent volunteers and staff members of the professional learning community who organized the school-wide project.
Thank you.
I just have a few follow-ups from our last board meeting. I'm hoping that parents have noticed an increased police presence in and around our schools. The board leadership and I continue to work cooperatively with the town and with the police department, and I'd like to thank them for providing this increased presence. And I have to tell you, since that started, I have heard from principals, from teachers, from students, and from parents that they have noticed the increase at the intermediate and elementary schools. And I just want to let the town and the police department know that we appreciate it and want to thank them for it. And second, to follow up also, we've been working to update our existing crisis communication plan. You know, the fact is at this time, people really do expect instant notice, regardless of what is happening. And that's a little bit different. We've always given information out, but now the expectation truly is instant. So we're working on that. Actually, we're working on it with a number of other districts because they're finding the same issue. We actually also have a few parents who are helping us in this regard, and we'll be sharing that information with parents. We're also developing some information regarding our procedures in the schools, and this will be made available to parents on our website, and we will notify parents when this information has been posted.
I'll just piggyback on that. First of all, to echo also thanking Mayor Brindle and Police Chief Wayman for the additional support and the increased police presence at the schools. I know that it required some shuffling on their part of staffing, and we really are appreciative of it. And just in terms of the second note about continuing to work on our communication plan, so Dr. Dolan, meets regularly with the other superintendents in the district, and I've had sort of a unique opportunity recently to meet with other Board of Education presidents in an ongoing way. And this issue is not unique to Westfield, and this sort of transition in time where we're needing to respond quickly and manage expectations of parents because they have instantaneous contact with their children oftentimes, but also focus primarily on the safety of the staff and students in the moment rather than talk to parents, is something that everybody's dealing with. So I think, continuing to have conversations with other districts is going to be helpful to us in sort of crafting our plan and getting something up on the website and moving forward in that regard. So thank you for all your efforts with that. My announcement is regarding our next Board of Education meeting, which is actually next Tuesday, March 27th at 7:30 in the boardroom here at 302 Elm Street. Our complete agenda will be on the website on Friday, March 23rd, on the Board of Education section of the website. I think that's all the announcements, right? So we're going to go a little bit out of order tonight just because we're happy and pleased to see that we have some student leaders here. And typically, if it's not an agenda item, we'd ask members of the public to wait, but we would actually like to provide you with an opportunity. I understand, Katie, maybe you have something that you want to say, to come on up to the podium. If I could just ask you at the beginning, state your name and your address, and then the floor is all yours. You can come up for moral support.
As many as you.
Do I have to say his address too?
No, he can say it if he wants.
If he's not speaking.
Okay, I don't know your address. So. Hi, my name is Katie Clark, and I live on 1512 Pine Grove Ave. On March 14th, an overwhelming majority of Westfield High School students joined together on the front lawn of our school for 17 minutes of solidarity. There were 1,100 of us. We spoke, we listened, and most importantly, we organized. In a country where some school districts essentially banned demonstrating or burdened students with penalties who did, our school supported us and stood with us. This meant so much to all of us at Westfield High School. The work that was put into making that day happen is what we students needed to heal, to feel heard, to take action. As you know, we live in a community not much different than Parkland. This scares us, but in the weeks since February 14th, it also gives us hope, because we know that there are millions of kids like us all over the country who have had enough. In Westfield, we're fortunate to have support from the adults around us. We want to thank you, the Board of Education, Westfield High School administration, teachers, staff, alumni, the Westfield Police Department, our families, and our classmates. Dr. Dolan, you supported our principal, Dr. Nelson, and we thank you especially for that. He listened to us, met with us, and did everything he could to help us be successful in this effort. We are grateful for the leaders and role models that we have in this community. Thank you again for working to be part of the solution. We are an inspired class of Westfield High School students, and we've only just begun.
At this time, we'd like to present the Board of Education with a photo from the day of the walkout.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Very cool. Thank you, guys. I mean, we're inspired by you, so thank you for showing us real leadership. We'll hang it up in our boardroom.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome to stay, but we won't hold it against you if you choose not to.
Thank you all for coming.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thanks. Thank you.
So we'll jump right back in. At this point, I would recognize members of the public for agenda items only. Does anyone have anything? Seeing no one come to the podium, I'll turn it over to Dr. Dolan for the superintendent's report. Thank you.
I don't think the person I was waiting for is coming, so maybe I could just, I was gonna do this in the public, we were gonna do this in the public section of the meeting.
Okay.
So if they're not gonna show, maybe I can just advise the board, very briefly why I'm here, and I don't, and what's not gonna happen.
Sure, I was gonna, absolutely, why don't you come on up and do that?
Thank you. Okay.
So maybe, Rick, because we're taping, I wonder if you would be comfortable at the podium?
Yeah, not a problem.
And for members of the public, this is Rick Capello. Rick is the board's general counsel, and the board's attorney, short and sweet.
Okay. I believe on the agenda tonight is the award of a contract for the Kaler Stadium renovations, which was a public bidding project, and in fact, a series of bids were received, opened, and reviewed by the business administrator and reviewed by myself and a couple of lawyers on top of that. There was a bid protest that was filed by the third lowest bidder. So you have the lowest, in my judgment, lowest responsible bidder, and the name of that company is Your Way. You have the second lowest bidder, the name of that company is Applied. And then you have the third lowest bidder, the name of that company is H&S. And the bids ranged from between $3 million, slightly over $3 million to slightly under $4 million. There was a bid protest filed by counsel, legal counsel, for the third lowest bidder, H&S, who has two bidders in front of them, two lower bidders in front of them. And the bid protest points out, it's in writing in a letter form and been reviewed by our architect, George Duthie, by Dana Sullivan, by myself. And I have provided some case law to both Dana and to Gretchen Oleg. And I think, I don't know, Dr. Dolan, have you seen that
Yes,
as
I
well?
did.
Yeah, okay. The allegations are that the lowest responsible bidder submitted what the protester refers to as an arbitrary list of subcontractors with the subcontractor qualifications, and then goes on to some lesser challenges than that. I have looked at all of the cases cited by counsel for H&S. I have looked at all of the relevant and applicable bidding statutes. I have evaluated the content and sufficiency of the Your Way bidding submission in light of the statute and the protest, and I have concluded without difficulty from a legal perspective that the Your Way lowest responsible bid submission is sufficient, is legally sufficient, is not random, is not arbitrary, is not fatally defective or non-compliant with the relevant and applicable law as alleged. And I have responded in writing with a lengthy written response on behalf of the school district that was sent out at the end of last week. I was told previously that there would be an appearance here tonight because I was asked where and when and all of that about this board meeting, that there would be an appearance here tonight by legal counsel for H&S and by a representative of H&S, which there doesn't appear to be. I was tied up in conference calls, but late this afternoon when I couldn't get on the phone, the attorney did call my office but didn't leave a message and didn't email me anything. For all I know, he could have been calling to tell me he wasn't going to show up. But nevertheless, I'm here because I wasn't sure whether he was or he was not. And I guess my message to the board is that if you're satisfied with the Your Way bid and what you hear about it from Dana, there's no legal reason why that contract cannot or should not be awarded.
Rick, if the board approves the Your Way bid tonight and the third lowest bidders still wants to protest, what's sort of his next step?
His next step would be to go to court, okay, and to file essentially a complaint that sets forth what he already put in letter form and to try to seek, well, he's not going to seek he could seek a restraint against us going forward with the awarded contract, but he would seek an order seeking to nullify and set aside that contract award, which they are empowered to do. There's no timeline or anything like that, and the state of the law is that if the bidding submission is defective, then any contract that's based on that defective submission has to be set aside or can be set aside as well. So the next step would be they would go to the general equity court, normally in Union County it would be Judge Dupuy, and try to seek some kind of restraint.
What's their time? Do they have a timeline where they have to file?
Well, I mean, it wouldn't make much sense to spend too much time thinking about it beyond the award of the contract, because the board's defense at that point would start to be equitable and as well as legal in terms of, now we have a subcontractor that's expended money, for materials to subcontractors, all of that, and, you start to get into equitable defenses which could defeat a bid protest in and of themselves. So there is no number of days that I can give you, but it's not consistent with their position to wait too long. Yes?
Rick, just tomorrow, say tomorrow they were to file, how fast would you get in front of the judge?
Well, how fast could they get in front of the judge?
Wow.
If they filed an order to show cause, they could probably get in front of the judge sometime this week if they prepared their papers correctly, and this is an experienced law firm, they know what to do. And I could do our response and be there in front of the judge whenever I needed to.
And typically, how long does it take him to adjudicate on what he's going to do?
Well, not too long, because this is a particular court that's dealing with, restraining orders, things that, where there's allegations of irreparable harm and that kind of thing. So I would say within a week, several weeks at the outside, the judge would make a ruling. And I mean, even that, several weeks is sounding long to me. But depends what her calendar's like, or if she's in the middle of a trial or that kind of thing,
Yeah, the whole purpose of us going to bid in January was so that we could get on the contractor's schedule.
Right,
The last thing we want
right.
to do is lose that spot.
Yeah, no, I understand that, and I've had that discussion with Dana, so I understand that time is of the essence. Yeah, yeah.
And, they were number 3, so
Right.
there's actually still somebody in front of them.
Oh, there is. They're challenging that bid as well, which of course they need to, and they actually might have a stronger argument against the second lowest bidder than they do, in my judgment, against the first.
So, clearly, from a legal perspective, Rick is very comfortable that the bid is sound, and Dana, you've done this so many times. You're comfortable as well that
Yes.
the bid is appropriate, that there's nothing materially defective about it. It's sort of a technicality kind of thing, correct? It's
That's
the
correct.
listing
Yeah,
of subcontractors.
and if we
Yes.
weren't comfortable with it, I'd be standing up here telling you
Right.
that right now.
And me too,
right.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Does anybody else from the board have any questions for Rick on this issue?
No, at this time.
Okay.
All right, thank
Thank
you
you.
so much.
Thank you.
Thanks.
So it's rare for us, but apparently this happens all the time, huh?
It's
Yes,
a
it
common
does.
tactic of certain contractors. Beat them into submission.
Happens frequently on field projects as well.
So I think we were at your report, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
So it's been months in the making, but tonight, Dana Sullivan, is our business administrator, will be presenting the budget for the approval of the tentative budget by the board tonight. Certainly, the board has been involved in this for months and has given input, and the finance committee has paid particular attention to it as well. Dana and I work on enrollment projections both for schools and grades and programs, et cetera, early on, actually in the fall. We then give guidelines and instructions to all of our principals and supervisors so that they can construct budgets for the following year. We then sit with all those administrators, work through it, ask questions, and then work to put together a budget within the parameters that are given to us by the board. So with that, I'll turn this over to Dana Sullivan.
Thank you. So this is the board's budget calendar. As Dr. Dolan just mentioned, behind the scenes administratively, we start this process very early on and have been working on it pretty much nonstop since November. The board's first public discussion was in December. We had a workshop, as you'll recall, where the board set parameters for the budget. The last board meeting, February 27th, I gave a presentation with estimated state aid figures. I didn't yet have state aid information, so I gave a presentation with numbers that I thought the state aid might have. And tonight I'll point out what's different about the last presentation. We did receive state aid on Thursday of last week. Tonight you'll be adopting a tentative budget, which we will submit to the county office this week. And then sometime before April 24th, the county office will approve it. And we will we'll advertise it on April 19th in the Leader, and then on the 24th, we'll hold a public hearing on the budget, and after the public hearing, you will adopt the final budget. So the state aid, this is what the state aid looks like. In 17-18, in basic state aid, we've received $4.0 million. Our aid for 18-19 is $4.5 million, so the increase is actually $355,000 for our operating budget. Our debt service aid actually went down a little bit by $23,000, and that's largely due to the fact that our debt service has gone down. You'll recall we refinanced some bonds a couple of years ago, so our total debt service actually went down, and therefore our aid went down. In addition to that $355,000 that we received in additional aid, I had not budgeted $216,000 of the 17-18 aid in the first draft of the budget for next year, because that was aid we received in August of 2017, and I wasn't sure that we would get that again, so I did not include that in the budget, but we did receive that for 2018-19, so we are now including that in the budget as well. So the 355 and the 216 is a total increase of $571,000. On the revenue side, that increase is in state aid. On the expenditure side, we broke that up into two parts. We put $350,000 of it into security, and we put the other $221,000 of it into technology. One reason that we put it in these areas, this budget is presented by the governor, but it's not adopted by the legislature until June. So we put it in areas that are not supporting staff, so that we would have the ability to, in case the budget doesn't go through and we should happen to lose this aid at some point before it's final, most of these purchases will not be made until we're sure that this money is going to come into our budget. This is the document that the board had set up that we discussed in December, and the unacceptable means and the parameters for the budget. So the second and third columns were the columns that the board filled in. And this is what we used as a guide when we developed the budget. So going from the parameters, the first parameter that we were given was to keep technology as a priority. So as I noted last week, you do see a decrease here. Sorry, you can't see that slide too well up there, but there's a decrease in technology, but that's because for the last 5 years or so, we have been spending significant amounts of money on our infrastructure and on buying equipment for our schools. So we're kind of leveling off on our needs. So we're still spending $1.7 million, a significant amount of money, but a lot of the major infrastructure changes that we had to make, we've done. So we have seen some of our costs come down a little bit in this area. We also prepaid some leases that we had done a few years ago, which also saved us money. So on our investment in technology for next year, we still have about $831,000 in improvements. Upgrading, again, some of it is going to the infrastructure, our call manager, and our firewalls and security. And then we have a significant amount for equipment for our schools.
The underlined number is what you're allocating is for the extra budget item?
Part of it is in the laptops and part of it's in the Chromebook carts.
Right, but I'm just seeing the 331,872 on that slide, and we had allocated 221,872 as far as the coming out of the additional budget, so we're allocating 100,000 no matter what. If you look at the prior slide, we have technology expenditure increases.
Right.
Of 221,872.
Right, we added 100 of it into laptops and the rest into the carts, I believe.
Okay.
It was in the, yeah, it was broken up between the laptop carts, the Chromebook carts and the laptops.
Okay.
The 221.
More of both.
Yeah. The recurring cost for technology is about almost equal to what our investment is, another $871,000 for our internet service, leasing of private fiber, various licenses and services, and subscriptions, and some repairs to our equipment. So our overall budget is, our tax rate increase for school taxes is going up 1.7%. So an average homeowner, or a homeowner with a house assessed at the average for the town will see an increase in their school tax of $166 for the year. The next parameter was to continue budgeting $750,000 of fund balance as revenue. We are doing that. We are actually appropriating more than $750,000 out of our revenue, but we are using $1.2 million of that to put it into reserve accounts, so capital and maintenance reserve accounts, and $750,000 of it is being used to sustain our operating budget, as we have been doing around that amount for the last several years, and we'll plan to continue to do that. Our tax levy, as I said, is going up 2%, which is the cap. We have an increase in state aid that I talked about already on this slide. And then we have special ed Medicaid initiative, that's federal money that we receive. Our other revenue is showing an increase of $300,000, and that's largely due to interest income. And that's because we do have money in reserve accounts that we've been able to deposit over the last few years, so we're seeing an increase in our interest income, plus interest is up a little bit. You see a decrease there on prior year purchase orders, and that's simply because we don't have any purchase orders to roll yet into 18-19, but that's why there's a decrease there. Last year in the budget process, we transferred $1.25 million into reserve accounts. This year, we're transferring $1.21. And this year, in the 17-18 budget, we have actually moved funds out of the reserve accounts to spend them on various projects. So they have increased the 17-18 budget. So that's why it shows there as revenue. Continuing with the results. Consider funding to support wellness. We did add money into the budget this year to add one additional counselor at the elementary school level, and that will be spread out through all the schools. And we also have money in there for professional development to support this continuing initiative. Explore the possibility of expanding our kindergarten wrap program. It doesn't look like we have the space to do that. We will continue to monitor enrollment and look at that program and see if we can offer any more of the wrap program. We are sustaining what we've had this current year, we believe, at this point. The limitations on the budget. The board did not want us to increase class size. We have not done that. Do not reduce the 2% held in fund balance for emergencies, so we will maintain that unreserved fund balance of 2%, which is roughly $2 million. Do not make reductions that are inequitable. The only reductions that have been made in the budget are really in areas where we have been able to take advantage of efficiencies. So we haven't really cut any programs or any staff or anything like that. It's really just been efficiencies. And we didn't eliminate any courses that the board has recently approved. The next limitation was do not reduce funding for the school resource officers. So I mentioned earlier in the slide that we added money for security. Some of the funds that were added were for 2 additional SROs at the schools. These would be designated for middle and elementary school. They would float between those. We've just had preliminary conversation with the town, so we'll continue to have conversation, but our current contribution for our high school SRO is $50,000. So we budgeted $100,000, hoping that we'll be able to get 2 additional ones for next year. And do not eliminate funding for the development office, and we do still have money in the budget for that initiative.
Amy, that's a great long-range planning
Yes, it is.
conversation. Sorry.
Yes.
Okay. This slide just shows the increases and decreases from 17-18 to 18-19, similar to what I showed last week, 2 weeks ago, except for the changes I noted. And just to highlight, in addition to the counselor that we're adding at the elementary schools, we are adding 6/10 of a teacher at the high school for the new engineering class. We are adding a teacher at the middle school level to help with class size. We're adding 2/10 of a strings teacher at the elementary level. And we're adding a district auditorium manager, which is something we've talked about for a number of years, need for somebody to take ownership of the auditoriums at the middle school and the high school level, and especially this year with the completion of our projects. That was something we're really happy we were able to add to the budget. We're adding a paraprofessional at the high school to help out with the library, and a half of an athletic trainer at the high school, also due to the number of kids involved with athletics. And this has been a request that we've had for quite a while, and we were able to add it into next year's budget. Our cost per pupil remains low compared to other districts in our area and of similar size to us. Many of these are K-12s with over 3,500 students. You can see we're at 13,284. The state average is 14,940, so it's significantly more per pupil. And if you multiply that by the 6,300 students we have in the district, that's a pretty big difference in what our budget would be. And you can see a number of districts there in the area that compare to us.
Dana, those numbers, those are adjusted numbers?
These are, so the state takes these numbers directly from our auditors, and they take out of these numbers a few costs. One of them being out-of-district tuition for special ed students, because it's not comparable from district to district. Same with transportation, because transportation is also not considered comparable. But there's only like 3 or 4 different costs that they take out, and then they calculate a cost per pupil. So that's what this is. And this is based on audited data for 2015-16. So they're a little bit behind because audited data is a little bit behind.
Right.
And then the next slide, you can see from 14-15 to 15-16, again, audited data, we actually went down in our cost per pupil. And that would be largely due to the fact that we self-insured our insurance, our health insurance, and saved a significant amount of money. So our costs actually went down. As did New Providence, but most other districts went up. So that's pretty significant because you don't usually see a chart like that.
Are they self-insuring too? Is that why theirs went down?
I don't know. No,
Okay.
I don't know why they went down. They may have a reduction in enrollment, I'm not sure. So next steps, we did receive the state aid, as I said, on Thursday. So tonight, we will ask you to approve the tentative budget, which we will submit to the county superintendent for his review and the county business administrator. And then we will advertise the public hearing on April 19th, and on April 24th, we'll hold the public hearing and adopt the final budget. Does anybody have any questions?
Any board member questions for Dana?
No, maybe just a comment for the public. It's probably obvious, but in case it's not, fractional teachers or positions are not really skinny people. They are just not working full-time. So it's a percentage of a full staff load, a full course load, I mean, so, yeah. That's all.
With the auditorium manager, position we're looking to create, that's a full-time position?
Yes.
Have we figured out what the rest of their duties will look like yet?
We're in the process now of looking at different other districts that have the position, gathering data on their job descriptions, and putting that together. We haven't quite done that yet, but we're working on it.
Thank you.
And the other question I was thinking about is, sometimes in the newspaper, they have the chart that shows Union County with the aid that we've received and the increases and so forth, and compare most of Union County. When does that come out, to see how the increased money that we're supposedly getting compares to the other districts?
The increased state aid that we're getting?
Yes, they usually do a state aid number that says, you know, Westfield got
The percentage.
300,000, X percentage more, Cranford got 200,000.
You know, I don't know. I didn't see any of that because I've been busy doing this. So to be honest with you, I haven't looked at anything. I don't know what other districts have gotten, other than the fact that I've talked to a few of my colleagues and heard numbers. I think districts similar to us are receiving somewhere around what we're receiving, but I don't really have good information on that because I haven't had a a chance to look at that.
It's been so many years since they really fully implemented the actual funding formula. So districts that have seen changes in enrollment either going up or down, it was never adjusted. So now they're trying to adjust it, but you'll see the range of percentages. You know, some people went up 5% and some went up 17%. It's a wide range. But some of it's because it's been so long since they've looked at it and adjusted it and reformatted it so that it was accurate again. That's some of the reason.
I think the
Well,
information is out there. I thought it was out there last week. I thought I saw it.
Yeah,
I'll find it
somebody's
and-
digested it, yeah.
I'll find it and I can send it out to you. I just haven't had a chance to do that yet.
No.
Or at the next, the public present, at the next presentation, I can,
Well, and with state aid, for the longest time, the state wasn't reducing any district's aid, whether the formula said they should or not. So it made a smaller pool of money available to districts that needed increased aid. Last year, they tried to adjust some of that, and a bunch of districts sued because they made the change in July. And the state wound up giving most of the money back. So we're right back to where we started.
Okay. Well, I mean, what was critical for me as probably one of the least financial people on the board, but is that it is appreciating that, so we have a new governor, and his budget hasn't been adopted, so you want to jump up and down about the increase in state aid, but we have to be wary. And then also just what it looks like going forward is all sort of in flux. But I know you got the numbers Thursday and you were in touch with us right away, so I really appreciate all the hard work you guys did to get us to Monday night. So, does anybody from the public have any questions for Dana on the budget presentation? You'll have another shot at it if you don't want to ask tonight. Okay. Anything else, Superintendent's report?
No.
Okay. I'd like to ask the board to approve the minutes of the board meeting held on February 27th, 2018, and the private minutes of the same date. Can I have a second, please? Thank you, Charles. All in favor?
Aye.
Dana, I have to abstain.
okay.
Personnel, Peggy.
I'd like the board to consider personnel items 1 to 15. Do I have a second?
Second.
Brendan? Dr. Dolan, I think you'd like to speak about item number 1.
Yes, we have. Tonight, I'm announcing with regret the retirements of 2 well-known administrators, Regina Keycheck, the district's math supervisor, and Maggie McFadden, an assistant principal at the high school. Together, they have given a total of 55 years of service to Westfield students. Dr. Keycheck, or Gina, came to Westfield after a 25-year career teaching math to students in the pre-K through graduate levels of education. For the last 19 years, she has led the math department, where she has supported staff with her depth of knowledge and commitment to excellence in math education. She has implemented new programs at all levels and has kept the focus on state and national standards, as well as the development of critical thinking skills for all students. Gina works closely with the special education department to ensure quality math education for special needs students. Now, Maggie McFadden is closing a 36-year career in Westfield as a physical education teacher and a department coordinator, an accomplished field hockey and softball coach, and most recently as a member of Dr. Nelson's administrative team at the high school. Maggie is renowned for her institutional history of the district. She remembers, or seems to remember, every student who has ever come through the doors of Westfield High School. It's true, I've been with her, and she'll see someone who graduated 20 years before, and she really does remember them and their siblings as well. She has assisted the high school with every facet of its management, from observing and evaluating staff to accomplishing the intricacies of scheduling 1,900 students. Both Gina and Maggie agree that it is Westfield staff and students who have the most important impact on their careers in Westfield. They are accomplished educational leaders who will be missed, and we certainly wish them well in their retirement.
We have to accept those retirements?
They do. They deserve it. They do.
Thank you, Dr. Dolan. They will definitely be missed. They are faces that are known throughout the district and have brought a lot of good things to our district. Does anybody have any other questions, comments? Thank you, Dana.
Lynn Benner,
Yes.
Mike Beelan,
Yes.
Kent Diamond,
Yes.
Brendan Galligan,
Yes.
Robert Garrison,
Yes.
Gretchen Olick,
Yes.
Peggy Oster,
Yes.
Charles Ostroff,
Yes.
Amy Root.
Yes.
Okay, facilities, that would be me. I circulated notes from March 2nd Facilities Committee meeting. We don't have anything to vote on tonight, but clearly, you know, we have auditorium's opening, and hopefully we're gonna start getting the ball rolling with Kaler. One of the things that we did at the last facilities committee meeting was we looked at the district's 5-year facilities plan, which is a document that it's sort of a living, breathing document that changes, but it's requests made at the building level, and it sort of floats up, and then we maintain the list and prioritize it out for the next 5 years. So the facilities committee had an opportunity to go through that. We also are continuing to revisit our building rental policy, and have a meeting next Tuesday with members of a number of third-party organizations to talk about their thoughts about our proposed changes to the policy. So at some point this spring, I hope we'll be bringing a final policy to the board for your consideration, but we're not quite there yet. Does anybody have any facilities questions? We're having opening ribbon cuttings at the auditoriums in April, so, and I think they're already in use for the shows. You've been, right?
I was, so was Amy.
Yeah, I was there too.
They're
was great.
nice. Yeah.
Really nice.
Great. Okay, moving on, long-range planning, Amy.
We, I think, almost have a long-awaited meeting on the docket for April, looking to piggyback after one of the auditorium openings. So I'm hoping that we'll actually get to talking.
Get to long-range planning.
Get to some long-range planning, at long last, yes.
Been planning it for a long time.
We have been planning, yeah, that's the best way to do it, yeah.
Policies, Brendan.
Yes. I ask the board to approve policy item number 1.
Second.
Thank you. It's 3 policies that we discussed at the last meeting that we're just consolidating into an existing policy. No need to have 4 policies that all say the exact same thing. Well, slightly different versions of the same thing.
Okay.
Dana?
Lynn Benner,
Yes.
Michael Beeman,
Yes.
Ken Diamond,
Yes.
Brendan Galligan,
Yes.
Robert Garrison,
Yes.
Gretchen Olig,
Yes.
Peggy Oster,
Yes.
Charles Ostrov,
Yes.
what'd you say?
Yes.
I think I said no. Amy Root,
Yes.
And I ask the board to approve policy item number 2.
Second.
Thank you, Peggy. It's superintendent's decision on HIB incident 18E04 for the reasons set forth therein.
Lynn Benner,
Yes.
Mike Beelan,
Yes.
Ken Diamond,
Yes.
Brendan Galligan,
Yes.
Rob Garrison,
Yes.
Gretchen Olig,
I have to abstain. I wasn't here.
Peggy Oster,
Yes.
Charles Ostrov,
Yes.
Amy Root.
Yes.
Great. Anything else, Brendan?
Nope, that's it.
Curriculum, instruction, and programming. Michael?
Yes, we have 2 items on the agenda. First, ask the board to approve the district field trips that we have outlined in our agenda. And secondly, I'd ask the board to approve the second reading of the 2 classes that we had reviewed our last meeting for the ancient and medieval traditions and the AP European history courses. Do I have a second? Oh, it's fast. Dana, any questions before we go?
Lynn Benner,
Yes.
Michael Beelan,
Yes.
Ken Diamond,
Yes.
Brendan Galligan,
Yes.
Rob Garrison,
Yes.
Gretchen Olig,
Yes.
Peggy Oster,
Yes.
Charles Ostrov,
Yes.
Amy Root.
Yes.
And we have our next meeting on Friday, this coming Friday, the 23rd.
Great. Thank you. Finance, Charles?
Okay, I'd like to point out items 1 through 14 for vote, as it relates to
Second.
vote. I get a second. I would like to address item number 14 first, which is accepting a gift of $593 from the Franklin School PTO to purchase replacement bulbs for classroom projectors. So thank you to the Franklin PTO for that purchase. As Dana also discussed, this is, as part of this is the tentative budget approval, as well as the Kelleher Field Stadium project, and also the science room upgrades for the high school. Anybody have any questions?
No.
Does anyone from, given the, I see some Kaler neighbors here, do you have any questions for us before we vote on the project?
Yeah, I have one.
If you could state your
Yep,
name.
yeah.
Yeah.
Greg Lindberg, 528 Grove Street in Westfield. I just had one question. I noticed from the presentation that was given originally in terms of the scope of the project back in October, that there had been a number thrown around about the estimated project being about 1.5 million, but that was before there were some scope additions, which in reviewing the meeting from October, it wasn't clear to me if the scope that was presented in that meeting with the architect, if that then reflected the final scope that went out to bid, because the actual budget obviously increased quite a bit. It's a little over $3 million now. So I wasn't sure if all this, like the bleachers and some of the other upgrades that were talked about in that meeting, were the totality of that change in the what ultimately became the budget for the
What was
project.
presented in October but went out to bid, correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I
We didn't have price estimates on certain things like bleachers and that kind of stuff at that
right.
time. Or some of the additional concrete work. Once they started doing core drills, realized certain pavement around the track needed to be replaced as well. Okay, because I knew the 1.5 million number was a year or two old, but I was just surprised to see it double.
Yeah, at
The
that point.
1.5 was for the carpeting on the turf field
Turf,
and to
yeah.
resurface the track,
Not the rest of the upgrades that were
Right.
talked about.
Stadium.
Right.
Okay, great, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, come on up. If you could just state your name and address. Thank you.
Eugene's 8-footer, 715 Broadway Avenue, so we're right next to the stadium. I'm new to this, so just bear with me. I just want to know, what are the hours of construction? Is it on the weekends? That's all I primarily care about.
It would be whatever the town ordinance is.
Okay.
Mostly I don't think they'll be working on weekends in the beginning. At some point, they may have to, depending on weather. But they will follow whatever the town ordinance is that allows them to work.
Town ordinance is Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 6 p.m.
Fair
and then
enough.
Saturday, not before 9 a.m.
Fair enough. Cool, thanks.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Yes.
That's actually a good question.
Mr. Encyclopedia, thank you. Anybody else? Okay, seeing nobody else, come to the podium. Dana.
Lynn Benner,
Yes.
Michael Beeland,
Yes.
Ken Diamond,
Yes.
Brendan Galligan,
Yes.
Rob Garrison,
Yes.
Gretchen Olig,
Yes.
Peggy Oster,
Yes.
Charles Ostra,
Yes.
Amy Root.
Yes.
Nothing else? Charles?
I have nothing else. When is our next finance meeting? I know I asked that last time.
Mid-April, I believe.
Technology. Peggy.
April 13th.
Great.
I know I knew that.
We had a technology meeting on Friday, the 16th. We had two sort of issues. First, we were
And we use technology.
We're gonna
to
get there.
the meeting.
First, we had to reschedule from all the nor'easters that went on. I believe it was supposed to be on the 9th, is that right? 9th, and moved to the 16th. The 16th didn't work for some members of the committee, mainly myself. I had to be in work in that morning. So we used technology, and I FaceTimed in to be part of the technology meeting. So we're using the technology that we purchased to keep us all informed also. And it worked great, I think. It was a little hard for me to see what they were looking at on the screen. They had to get a little close with the FaceTime so I could see the details and so forth. But I was very grateful that I could be part of the meeting, and it worked well. So over the past couple of months, we've been talking about the new website that we're putting into place. And at this meeting, our head technology officer, Brian Ocker, had a template of the new website that they're working with colors, what's going to be on the main page and so forth and so on. So we reviewed that, and that's mainly just the structure. We didn't get into any of the bones behind the new template or anything. We just looked at the main page and what that was going to include. And it looks great. After this point in time, the programming to get all of the bones behind it is going to take about 8 weeks or so to put up into place and so forth, so that we can begin to look at the website and test it out. Do we like the drop-down menus? What do we want on those drop-down menus and so forth? So that's our next step that we're going to. We are hopefully going to be able to do training with teachers, administrative staff, and so forth before school gets out, because we are shooting to have the website up and running for the new school year. So we want to be able to train the teachers while they're here. And since it's still a work in progress, we're still looking for continued feedback in reference to the website, what's on it. We discuss some of the specific drop-down menus, making sure we look at, say, the guidance menu to make sure that it's really relevant to today's teachers, today's students, parents, and so forth, and the information is easily found for everybody. So it's still a work in progress, and we're still working with feedback from all of the participants that we've talked about in the past couple of months that have been giving us feedback, whether it's students and teachers, administrators, parents, and so forth. Everybody's going to use it. The one thing is for students and parents, teachers are still going to use their Google pages. So what you are used to looking at from teachers for your information in reference to classes, homework, and so forth is still going to remain the same. So that shouldn't really affect you. And I think that's it. If anybody has anything else who was in live attendance at the meeting.
No, it went pretty well. We have to decide what we want on the board drop-down menu.
Right.
We have to clean that up, but I mean, it looks great.
So, and
Of all the people in attendance, we don't have a board drop-down menu yet?
No, we do. No, we do. But
right, the drop-down menus that are there now are what exist on our current website.
Yes.
Oh, right.
And we need to
wanna
clean
shape-
that up.
we wanna
We
clean
can make
it
it
up.
new and improved.
Yeah, all right.
So that's what's
Yeah.
key is everything
Got
that's in this template, if you hit the drop-downs, are what we already have. So the next start, once they put the programming in, is to really say, drop down that board menu and say, maybe we want to have your picture there.
Or not.
But some of the, that's the beauty, all the nuts and bolts that go behind the template and so forth, and that'll come sort of after the programming and so forth. So it's still a work in progress, and they're working very hard on it, and there's a lot of people involved and so forth. So I think it's great. I think that's all we discussed, and our next meeting is April 20th.
Great, thank you. I'd ask the board to note the notes for the record. I'm sorry?
No.
You're noting it?
I'm noting it, yeah.
May the record reflect that Amy noted the notes for the record.
I'm on it.
Do we have any unfinished business to talk about tonight? Does anyone from the board have new business? Liaison reports. Yeah, it's been too many nor'easters.
I actually have
Great.
a couple things that I'd like to note publicly. I guess the first thing, last week, we were able to get it in this year. It wasn't a snow day, or right after a snow day, was one of the committees of the Parent-Teacher Council is the Special Ed Parents Committee, and they did their annual expo. It's been 25 years that they've been putting this on at Edison School. And it was last Wednesday evening, and Lynn was there as well, and Dr. Dolan was there, and Mary Ann was there. And Lori Korecki was honored for all of her years of service and kind of work to promote the efforts and activities of the Special Ed Parents Committee. So it was nice to see her acknowledged, and her husband came as well. And there were great speakers. I think they usually work to see if they can get maybe one or two on the website. I don't know if they got them recorded this year or not. But there were 4 different presentations, anxiety and school refusal, dyslexia, recognizing dyslexia and dyscalculia,
Yes.
And
Difference between 504s, know your rights.
right.
And then,
Yeah.
rubber band kids.
Right. Resilience.
Resilience.
Which we could all learn something from. So it was a great evening, and just wanted to acknowledge the efforts of the committee and the co-chairs that helped put it on. And if you didn't make it this year, watch this space. It's typically on a Wednesday night in the middle of March, and they're hoping to continue the tradition next year as well. And we were also able to stick our heads in and see the Edison Auditorium. We got a quick sneak peek of that, which is beautiful. It has that new auditorium smell. And actually, the previous weekend, I had seen Charles. We were both at the Roosevelt, one of the performances of Legally Blonde.
I think Edison's having their performance this weekend.
That's good.
That's right. Yeah.
I'll be there.
So interesting to see how they're both beautiful and gorgeous and not the same. Yeah, different. So mark your calendars for April 11th and 12th and come check out the new auditorium spaces. And just a quick plug,
The Parent-Teacher Council has its monthly meeting, general meeting this Thursday in this room at 10:15. And at our last meeting, Brian Ocker came and did kind of a quick overview of the process for picking the new website, and talked about, you know, who's had involvement, what it's gonna look like. So again, kind of summarizing what Peggy did for us here, he was doing for some of the parent leaders at the schools. So, good and helpful.
Excellent.
Quick question.
Yeah.
I know the special ed chairwoman
Mhm.
has been there for a long period of time, and I know her children are graduating.
Mm-hmm.
Did they find new people to take over for?
Yes, there are two that are working together, Liz Bedner and Amy Kolchinsky, and they did a great job.
They did a wonderful job, right? It was
Yeah.
a
And I know
changing of the
Lisa
guard.
has worked tireless for that committee for many, many years, so
Yeah, since the
thank her
beginning,
for
really, yeah,
her
she's
time and
great.
effort.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
She was there as well, but
She
but
was.
the new team was in charge.
Great.
It was great
Mhm.
to see, yes.
Yes.
I agree.
Yeah, passing the torch.
Anybody else? Any liaison reports, PTO meetings?
No.
I would, at this point, recognize the public for questions and/or comments. Okay, seeing nobody come to the podium, I'd ask the board to approve the following resolution. Be it resolved that the Board of Ed move into private session for the purpose of discussing matters rendered confidential by state and federal law, contract negotiations, and harassment, intimidation, and bullying incidents. And be it further resolved that any discussion held by the board which need not remain confidential, and the results of the discussion will be made public as soon as practical. Can I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Brendan. All in favor?
Aye.
We are moving into private. Thank you very much.